Hey, so welcome. This is the I guess Wii GB operator. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm the developer for it, Turtlemon. I'm not really developer, software engineer. The big AI disclaimer, like pretty much this whole thing was built by Claude Code. Like my entire coding experience and like software experience is like 2 classes I took in college, like 2 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. But it's pretty nice being able to like put something together. This is something that I wanted to work on since I've been playing through Pokemon Ruby using Pokemon Box. And for anyone who's went down the Pokemon Box on Wii rabbit hole, there was that one project that like made like a patch for it, but Nintendo doesn't support, or at least like the build I have, maybe they updated it, doesn't support the GBA to GB link cable transfers, or GameCube to GBA link cable transfers. And so I wanted something that was kind of more native for the Wii, and I thought about a couple different options that I had. Like I figured like, oh, what's to stop you from just like making something that just uses the link cable anyways? But what I found is that apparently like the Game Boy Color games, like their save is stored differently. So that wasn't going to be able to work. So I decided to go with the GB operator since it's something I had. And the Wii happened to have 2 nice USB ports. But yeah, so huge disclaimer though that like I didn't really code like anything. I just I know a couple of things about like computers and how they work. So I was able to put something together and I hope you enjoy it. Pretty much what I did was just a lot of like vibe coding, like troubleshooting, providing direction and whatnot. And there's a lot of other open source projects that were kind of put together to make this. But like, I'm not affiliated with anyone or anything, not Nintendo, not Epilogue. Just wanted something that, give another use for the Wii, some old hardware that, but yeah. So what this does is, at least this program for now, it kind of like replicates like the GB operator like experience, right? So on the PC, you can boot up Epilogue Playback and you can like plug in your Game Boy cartridges and play them. So that's kind of like the first phase of this project where you got to do the adventure mode, and it does this by using the USB port, and it just downloads the ROMs off of the game carts that you have. I mean, in theory, yeah, you can just like put the ROMs on your SD card anyways, and it makes it a lot faster because it does take, pretty good amount of time. Like for Game Boy Advance games, you're looking at like maybe 3 to 5 minutes for like dumping like a ROM, like one of the Pokemon games like Emerald, like 16 megabytes. It'll take about that long. For the Game Boy games, like the 1 megabyte, Pokemon Red and Blue, those ones will take like a minute. And then Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal, 2 megabytes, those will maybe take like 1 or 2. But yeah, so it dumps those, and then actually I'll just go back. Yeah, so I'm already in game. I'm gonna exit without syncing. But yeah, so like when you're booting up your game, you just hit play game, and the idea is that it just like reads the save off of your cart. this is provided you already have it downloaded. I'll give a demonstration what it looks like when it's not downloaded. But yeah, it just pulls a save and you just boot it up kind of like you would on the G operator. But yeah, so that's what the play game does. Is it just if you don't already have your game installed, it'll install your game, and if you do have it installed, it'll just read the most recent save file that's on your cart, and then after you're done, it'll save it back to your cart. But yeah, hopefully in the future, what I can do is some stuff with like in the Pokemon box, like using the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, maybe even DS games, you know, because in theory all those can connect, you know, in this way, and then have like kind of like an all-in-one like cross-generation box management solution for generations 1 through 4. I think that would be kind of cool. But I mean, technically, I guess you could even do 5, but I think the only like wireless interface that really makes sense is like the like trying to like spoof like Pokemon Ranch or whatever. But yeah, so that being said, in terms of like the GV operator side of things, like it really only supports, or it's only really been tested on like Pokemon games. So that's really all I have. Like I'm like a Nintendo fan, but like, you know, being honest, like I'm a Pokemon fan. So that's pretty much all this has been built for. I mean, I have tested like one other game. Like I have like Super Mario Deluxe for the Game Boy Color, and that seemed to work okay enough. I had one earlier on when I was trying to test it. It seemed like it loaded weird, but might have been because the ROM downloaded funky. But yeah. So I guess I'll get into how to use it. So on your SD card, and I guess I'll put like a screenshot at this point in the video, but on your SD card, what you have to have is the like the borders folder. I guess you don't have to have this, honestly, but in the borders folder, you're gonna have the GBA and the GBC folders. I don't have something set up yet for the Game Boy, or yeah, the original Game Boy games, because I think MGBA, which is the emulator that this uses, is set up to like automatically pull from the Super Game Boy borders. But yeah, and the so for that, like Pokemon Red and Blue, for example, like those when they boot up, like they boot straight up with the Super Game Boy borders. But on Game Boy Color, like Pokemon Gold, the Super Game Boy version of that, it actually runs in like the Game Boy mode. So if you were to do that, it would be in black and white. So what I have going right now is actually just the regular like Game Boy Color emulation, and then that's being like composited over the border image that like I downloaded. But yeah, and so the same thing actually applies with the Game Boy Advance, because like I said, I'm trying to get after that like Pokemon box style atmosphere. And you can put your own borders in this. They just have to be named like border underscore and then like the 4-letter code that's on like the game carts. I'm not sure how I'm gonna work that for the Game Boy games, because not all of those have like codes with them, but maybe some kind of other naming convention that just matches the ROM or something. But yeah, so the yeah, you have the borders folder, and then you have the ROMs folder. You don't really have to do anything with that. I'm not really sure how that would work, like if you just downloaded the ROMs ahead of time, put them on your SD card, but you're welcome to try, because this program itself, like it'll like automatically like name the ROMs based off of some of the internal card data, and then like a lot of common games like have like references on like a lookup table. But yeah, I would just recommend just like downloading your ROMs. It only takes like 5 minutes, and then it'll like have all the naming conventions right, so the program can recognize it. And then your saves folder, don't necessarily worry about that. Like it's set up right now so that like every time you boot it up, it'll like automatically make a backup, and it'll timestamp it with what's on your Wii. So if your Wii time is inaccurate, like you're not really gonna know which one's most recent, but that's all right. And I'm being like pretty conservative with the backups, because this program is pretty experimental. So hopefully, you know, you don't lose anything, but I highly recommend that you back up your own saves. And then in the saves folder itself, it'll just maintain like the most recent save. So like when you boot it up, you saw how it like downloaded the save. What that does is it downloads to that folder. And so then that's like the running save that MGBA is using. And then once MGBA is done, it'll upload to, or I guess download or whatever, to the cart. So I call it like a cart sync. It'll sync that MGBA save with what's on your cart. So that way you pull your cart out and you put it in your Game Boy. You're playing with that save itself. But yeah. And then you need Boot.dol. So if you, I'm not really sure, I'm probably gonna do like a GitHub or something like that. And once I get that set up and put it in the description, I'll update it. But the Boot.dol, that's renamed from e_gb_operator.dol. And so that's gonna be found in the build folder of like all of the code that I'm gonna post. And then Meta.xml, that is the like the metadata associated with the DAW file. So when you're on the Homebrew channel and you're looking at the game, it's going to show that. Yeah, like the name and what it does and what version it is. I guess this is version 1. Honestly, I don't even really know how like the whole like 1 point dot whatever kind of nomenclature works. So I'll just call this 1 maybe. And then the Settings.ini. So pretty much the only settings that are in there are the scales. So each of the emulation scenarios has like a scale factor that you can set the default of. So there is the with borders and without borders. And the reason being is that like the scale is based off like the outside extent of like what's rendered. So if you have that that border on there, and you set it to like 1, and then you have like emulation without that, and then you set it to 1, like you're gonna end up with like some overscan issues, because the game will match like the outer perimeter of what the previous game of the border had. So they're separate. And then there's also like the dev menu. So that just has like some of the more manual versions of these features. That's not on the front end. You're welcome to mess around with that if you want. Yeah. But pretty much you can do almost everything in the dev menu that you can in the front end that I made. But yeah. Oh, and then also there's going to be like when you play the game, it'll make like a cart index.ini. Like that's just like a helper file just to help it like keep track of like names and whatever for like some of the games. But yeah. So again, make sure you back up all your games, you know, or all your saves before you like boot this up and try to run with it. And then yeah, so to use this, you just got to plug the GB operator into your Wii, and then you got to boot up the Wii and the GB operator program, and then you're going to insert your cart. It'll automatically detect. I guess I can just walk through that actually. So let me, yeah, I'll just exit this. I'll exit without syncing. So this is what it looks like when you boot it up. It'll automatically detect the like any changes. So let me get a game really quick. 1 second. So I'll swap out. I'll take out Pokemon Gold, and then I'll put in Pokemon Ruby. And you see how it says no cart detected. Every couple whatevers, it'll do like an automatic detection. And then, yeah, so now I have Pokemon Ruby in here. You can see, like, I have all my options. I'm not really going to go through all those. They're very self-explanatory. But we'll do play game. And so now it's reading the save. And it boots up. And so you can see this is some, like, frankly, ugly-looking border that I put together. It's just a proof of concept. But yeah, and then we're just in game. I think it works pretty nice. But yeah, I do like the idea of just having the borders. But yeah, and so when you're playing Game Boy Advance games, what you do is you just save normally. I try to get it as close to the GB operator, how they kind of save automatically, but I'm going to save. And then you're going to see there's going to be like a yellow square that appears. You can see that in the top right corner, this yellow square. And what that does is that's syncing. If you press the Z menu, you can see the cart save status is currently syncing. and then just hit complete, and you see the square is green now. So at this point, I can quit the menu, and I can open the game back up again if I want to. And you can see I don't have to download the game. It's just going to synchronize with the most recent save on the cart. And then I'm going to boot it up. And you can see I'm right back where I left. Because on this, the saves are automatic, which I think is pretty nice. And also, if you save, and we have that yellow square up here, and I hit the exit, it's going to go ahead and finish up writing it. So what is writing right now is to the card itself. And this is different than on the Game Boy Color. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't get it to work quite like the GB operator does. There's some weird like detection issues with like trying to find out when exactly a save occurs in this game. So this one's just manual, and I figured that it's kind of like, I think it's fair, because like, you know, if you think about like the other options to play Game Boy Color games on the TV, obviously the standards are going to be like Super Game Boy and the GB player on the GameCube. But you know, if you think about maybe like N64, like that one, I imagine it's probably pretty funky. But for this to save, you just save in game, just like normal. And the game is saved. And then you can either hit sync to cart, and you can see it syncing, and it's complete. And then you can just keep playing. And so right now your save is backed up to your cart, or just gonna save again. And then quit the menu. So on quit the menu, we have two options. So if I exit without syncing, what's going to be on my cart, and then what's going to show up the next time I play is going to be like down, like further south, where I saved on the previous time. But if I hit sync and exit, it does the same thing as if I were to have hit sync and then exited. Because you can just do that if you don't want to do sync and exit for whatever reason. You can just like sync it manually and then be like, oh, okay, I'm going to exit now. And it does the same thing. But yeah, I guess the only other thing I could demonstrate is like this scale, but I don't really, it's pretty self-explanatory in the dev menu. But yeah, I guess I will go into the credits. Let me go somewhere nice. Oh yeah, the controls. So this is only with the GameCube controller for now. I do want to add like the sideways Wiimote, even like the vertical Wiimote, I think could be cool. That'd be a cool like accessibility thing. But for now it's just a GameCube controller, and I tried to match like Pokemon box style controls where you have the D-pad, the analog stick, and the C stick all control the D-pad, and then start is obviously start, X, Y are select, left and right are left and right, but on Game Boy they obviously don't do anything, and then Z is the options menu. This is what the scale does, so like if you wanted it to be like smaller, you can, but I'm playing on a CRT right now, so I think this looks the best, a little bit blown up, and like honestly, like I know we always talk about like integer scale and whatnot, but on the CRT, on the Wii over composite, I really don't think that like pixel perfect is what's important. I think it's kind of just like the vibe. But yeah, let's go over some credits of what helped me out with this. So like obviously Claude AI, like I couldn't have done this without that. I guess it's kind of unfortunate and it's like lazy and whatever, but like outside of the ethical concerns of using AI, like I don't think that it's like necessarily like lazy, because it's like, okay, it's a freaking homebrew program for Nintendo Wii. Like if I was like someone that made like, you know, security programs for like a bank, like yeah, this would be an issue, but like I don't really care. GB like operator, and that's operator spelled with PY, because like there's some dudes that like made like a Python version of GB Operator to be like open source and whatever. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that was very helpful. I guess not really helpful for me. It was helpful for Claude, but whatever. Epilogue, obviously, made the GB Operator. I think it's awesome. Like, it very high return on investment for me. Like, managing saves, backing up games, like replacing game carts, like batteries and stuff like that. Very, very useful. And I think it's a very like elegant solution for this kind of problem, compared to like some of the more like bare bones like cart wrappers, because you're really not spending that much money on like a very like high quality, well made product. And then plus like they have that like app now, so like if you're buying like a game on like Facebook Marketplace, you can just like auto detect like authenticity. So pretty cool. I highly recommend getting one. This isn't like an ad or nothing. Like I just think it's pretty cool, and you can do stuff like this with it now. Oh, and then like obviously the software like Epilogue Playback. I had to like scan like the USB like handshakes, because it's like the Python based program, like it didn't have everything I needed, so I had to actually install like Wireshark, which is the next credit. So what I use for Wireshark for is like to capture the USB traffic, and then I just say, hey Claude, like look over all this stuff and figure out what I need to do. And you can kind of like, there are like signatures or handshakes for like when like data transfers, like hey, start dumping the whole ROM. And so that was useful. PKHex, like when I was first like validating like the save data like dumping, like I would use PKHex to figure out like what the valid saves were and stuff like that. GBA link cable dumper, that was like kind of consulted for like understanding like GBA ROM layouts and like how that handshake works, because it's based off like the GBA's like dual boot mode or whatever. Which, since it's GBA dual boot, doesn't work for Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. But, and then there's a couple like No Intro and LibRetro database. Those were for like finding like information on like ROM headers, because I didn't want the program to just tell you like, oh, you're playing like I think it's like PRPV0 or something like that. It's kind of like crazy. It shouldn't really say that, because that's based off like the hex data from the game. It should say you're playing Pokemon Fire Red, or you're playing like Pokemon Gold. So I use these databases to figure out like what the hex data like meant. I mean, I say me, Claude. But Claude used these sources to figure that kind of stuff out and like generate like a somewhat comprehensive repository. The program will do its best to come up with a name that's like legible and readable and makes sense. And then obviously DevKit Pro, libogc, and libfat, those were used to like build the software itself, because those have like all like the tool sets that you need to like actually make homebrew for this Wii. The goal is to have like an actual program that like sits on your Wii and not launchable from I guess it could be launchable from the homebrew menu, but like something that's like it feels like a game, because that's what I'm getting after, is like the experience. MGBA, this entire project is based around MGBA, because that's like the emulator that runs it. So I guess if you have any issues with emulation, take it up with MGBA or whatever. Or I guess you can like comment or something, and I can try to fix it, but I don't really know what I'm doing. So hopefully. And then some guys on the Spiders resource that posted like the borders, or not the borders. Used their data sets or sprite sheets for the borders. That's Dogtoon64 and French Orange, who posted like Fire Red and Ruby stuff. Their links are in the description. But yeah. Other than that, I think that's it for like the software showcase. If you have any questions, I guess you can leave a comment. I'm like a full-time employee, so like I don't really have like all the time in the world, but honestly my job right now, like I have more time than I did in my last job, so that's why I'm able to make stuff like this. So hopefully I can help something with the community, but just understand that like my goal isn't to make like the perfect GB Operator Wii experience. My goal is to make Pokemon Box for the Wii, which kind of go hand in hand, but all of like the dressing up and making things look nice and work nice is going to be focused around that. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed checking out something that I made, and have a wonderful day.